and just started shooting people.
They started throwing tables out the window, and they picked us up and they threw me and my girlfriend out the window.
We had to break the windows to get over.
They found 11 victims that had been killed.
We did just get the news that he was one of the 11. His name was Cody Kaufman, my firstborn son.
When Sergeant Helis and the Highway Patrol officer went in, they immediately exchanged gunfire with the suspect, and that's when this Sergeant Helis was shot several times.
Sergeant Helis, he needs to be paid the respect that that is due. He is a hero.
Heartbreaking words from grieving families, harrowing stories of survival from the mass shooting in Thousand Oaks.
Yeah, and tonight we are learning about the lives taken during the massacre at the Borderline Bar and Grill last night. All right, here is what we know right now. Police say 28-year-old Ian Long walked into the Borderline Bar and Grill in Thousand Oaks just before 11:30 last night and opened fire. When the shooting stopped, 12 victims were dead, including a Ventura County Sheriff's Department sergeant.
The majority of the other victims were young people, university students at the bar celebrating college night. Many of the survivors escaped by jumping out of a second-story window. The shooter, Ian Long, was
flames out here in the Newbury Park area. We're moving very, very quickly earlier on with a lot of vegetation. Now, it's one of those good and bad type of situations. A lot of that vegetation is now burned away. But there is still a lot of hot spots in areas where, in the Canal Grade, where there are homes. You got firefighters out there. We do see a couple of outbuildings possibly burning out here this afternoon. Firefighters on the ground still trying to battle those flames. You're talking about the 101 freeway. 101 freeway closed both directions. Earlier on, when this fire was fresh and new, the 101 was still open. It was very hectic in that area. We were watching as drivers basically stopping on the freeway, making U-turns and going against traffic, trying to get out of the area. Right now, though, the fire basically has passed through the 101 area, but still a lot of smoke. Unsafe to be opened up right now, probably because of a lot of the firefighting activity still going on those hillsides. The flames basically have worked their way from the Newbury Park area where it started in an area that was very industrial, worked the way it's crossed a lot of these hillsides right here and then jumped the freeway to where the residential areas were. Now, earlier on, the fire was being fought from the air and on the ground. Right now, that firefight continues. A lot of these areas right now, the big flames have passed, but they're working on a lot of hot spots in residential areas. Live in Sky 2 over the Canal Pass, I'm Stu Medell. Back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you so much for that, Stu. And as Stu talked about the firefight from the ground, we do have our reporter on the ground who will give us a vantage point from what they are doing there. Let's go to Adriana Weingold. She is on the ground covering the Newbury Park fire. Adriana.
Well, the wind is really picking up out here in Newbury Park. You can see behind me these flames still raging here on the hillside here. We are on Santa Rosa Road at Hill Canyon, and this fire has really been burning since 2 in the afternoon, but it has picked up speed this afternoon and just tore through this area. It's gone now to 8,000 to 10,000 acres, but the fire department says that is just an estimate as they are trying to get structures, people, and animals in the way of the fire out of the way and trying to get resources in. They just haven't had time to update those numbers, but they say that it is growing. And we do have several mandatory evacuations, including Vallecito Trailer Park, Camarillo Springs, Cal State University Channel Islands, and Dos Vientos. There's also a hard closure of the 101 in both directions between Borchard Road and Pleasant Valley Road. There are several evacuation centers as well at Borchard Community Center, Camarillo Community Center, and Rancho Santa Susana Recreation Center. Now, earlier today, the fire jumped the 101 in Newbury Park. It is incredibly dry and windy out here, and firefighters say that it could reach PCH within the next 4 hours. Now, we have seen several water drops in the area, about 8 tankers here making consistent water drops, trying to get a handle on this very fast-moving fire. That's it for now out here in Newbury Park. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
Adriana Weingold, right at the north side of this fire that we have been covering and that is about 18 miles northwest of where the shooting occurred. So all of this happening in a very compact area.
Yeah, Randy Page put it beautifully, and that is two big stories happening on top of each other, literally. Well, and now back to the tragedy we have been covering nonstop since midnight in Ventura County, the mass shooting at the Borderline Bar and Grill.
CBS 2's Dave Lopez is live at the Borderline Bar and Grill where it all happened. Dave?
Jeff, behind me, they are still working feverishly. They'll be here all night long. It is a very grim task, very reminiscent of what happened in San Bernardino, that massive shooting coming up on 3-year anniversary. But they are hoping to get enough information tonight so that they'll have more information about exactly how this shooter died. They are still not completely 100% sure that he shot himself. All they know is that the officer who went in there along with the CHP officer are considered heroes because shortly after they exchanged gunfire, at that moment, that's when the shooting stopped. It was a night that people here wish obviously had never happened. The awful sound of gunfire inside the Borderline Bar and Grill, and from the outside you could hear that same awful sound.
Guys, run! Go! He's coming out this door!
And we heard shots, and everyone kind of looked around, and then we heard more shots. I heard like 6 shots. Everybody piled on top of each other.
The only thing I heard was get down, and then the guy who was next to me, again, I didn't know him, he just threw us under. He pulled us inside and threw us under, and then all you could hear was, I mean, you can imagine what was heard.
It was college night inside the Borderline Bar and Grill, and people panicked.
All I wanted to do was get as many people out of there as possible.
And that's what people did. Breaking windows, crawling to safety, hiding in the bathrooms. The 911 dispatch call.
The subject was at the front shooting at everybody. He's still inside the bar. Officer down. Sound 3 down and unresponsive.
That officer down, Ron Hellis, a 29-year veteran of the Ventura Sheriff's Office, who was on patrol nearby, talking to his wife on the phone when he got the call, and he said, "Honey, I gotta go. I'll see you later tonight. I love you." Less than 10 minutes later, he ran into the bar, was shot, and killed.
Reset! Arms!
Earlier this morning, his body escorted to the coroner's office in Ventura. The suspect, identified by police as Ian David Long, shot and killed himself. As for a motive, they say they have none. How many shots had he fired? Numerous, but they wouldn't give a specific number.
Deputies are at the house now. They have secured the residence.
Sheriff Jeff Dean talking about the suspect and where he lives. The FBI is involved in this investigation, and late this afternoon, a contingent from the LPD marched in unison, flowers in hand, and placed them at the entrance of the parking lot to the Borderline Bar and Grill. People who live in this community are shocked. In fact, one person told me, "We nicknamed this place Mayberry RFD. Why? Because nothing ever bad happens here," she told me. It did last night. It is not an overstatement to say that people here are extremely shocked. The deputy who was shot and killed, Mr. Hellis, had a 29-year career. He was due to retire next year. The sheriff here in town, Sheriff Dean, is due to retire tomorrow. Reporting live from Thousand Oaks, I'm Dave Lopez, CBS 2 News.
Dave, thank you. As we said at the top of the newscast, we are learning more about the 12 victims killed in this massacre.
Let's go back out live to our Pat Harvey. Pat?
Thank you so much, Sharon and Jeff. And, you know, piggybacking off of what Dave Lopez said, there is still so much emotion, sadness, and grief in this very small, tight-knit community. As you mentioned, we do know the identities of the victims of the shooting. Many of them were in college or recently graduated, but all of them still had so much more life to live. 54-year-old Sergeant Ron Hellis, a 29-year veteran of the Ventura County Sheriff's Office. He was set to retire next year. Helis was the first responder on scene, running straight into the scene of the crime. The last words he told his wife on the phone, quote, "I gotta go. I love you." 22-year-old Cody Kaufman was from Camarillo. His father says he wanted to join the Army. He was an umpire for a youth baseball league. He had a baby sister on the way. 23-year-old Jason Meek was a Cal Lutheran student with a degree in criminal justice. His school confirmed in a statement that he had saved lives before he died. Sean Adler worked as a bouncer at Borderline Bar and Grill. He was also a wrestling coach at Royal High School in Simi Valley. His team called him positive and motivational. 18-year-old Elena Housley was a freshman at Pepperdine University. She was the niece of actress Tamara Mowry Housley and Fox News correspondent Adam Housley. 33-year-old Daniel Manrique was a former Marine who worked for Team Red, White, and Blue, a group that helps veterans adjust after coming home. There was 21-year-old Noel Sparks, who loved horses, 21-year-old Blake Dingman, 21-year-old Jake Dunham, Christina Morissette, and Telemachus Orphanos. Elena Housley's aunt, actress Tamara Mowry Housley, tweeted a statement earlier today, along with her husband, former Fox News correspondent Adam Housley. She said, quote, "Our hearts are broken. Elena was an incredible young woman with so much life ahead of her, and we are devastated that her life was cut short in this manner. We thank everyone for your prayers, and we ask for your privacy, or ask for our privacy at this time." And you have to think about Elena Housley. From what I understand, she was on the dance floor. They were doing a line dance at this particular Borderline Bar and Grill where a lot of young people gather and just people in the community. It was country music night, college night, so no surprise that she was there. And we're gathering a lot more information about the victims of this shooting, and I'll have more for you in a few moments from now. But for now, let's send it back to you, Sharon and Jeff.
All right.
Pat, thank you so much. Some very disturbing video has surfaced from inside the bar as the shooting was happening.
And CBS 2 investigative reporter David Goldstein is live in the newsroom to show us the chilling video. David?
Well, Sharon, we've heard from the eyewitnesses, those who are inside the Borderline bar, but this video shows the view from inside, shot by a patron who took out his cell phone. You can actually see the gunman as he fires. The gunman can be seen right here inside the Borderline as he methodically fired.
Guys, run! Go! He's coming out this door!
When the shooting stopped, Dallas Knapp, who shot this video, ran out the back with others and described the scene.
All right, so this dude came in, started unloading, and everyone panicked and just laid down because they didn't know what was going on. And then I saw this dude like actually shooting people, and everyone's laying down along the back side, along the windows. And so everyone was just laying down, so I started yelling, just get out. And everyone realized what was going on, so everyone started brushing out the doors.
Hey, can somebody help me?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I got you.
Knapp helped a wounded patron who also escaped. He apparently was friends with Justin Meek, who was shot and killed, and Knapp described what he saw.
He ran in with a Glock, dressed all in black with a beanie on, throwing tear gas when he walked in. And I watched him walk in, and then he just starts unloading on people. And I watched him, my friend Justin tried to wrestle out him. He killed him, watched him kill him, shot him 3 times in the back when he was already on the ground after he already shot him.
Well, just some amazing video. Incredible that he took out his phone to memorialize what happened inside. Knapp, of course, got out okay. Others who escaped with him as well. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right.
David Goldstein with some very difficult video to watch. All right, let's go back to our Pat Harvey in Thousand Oaks.
And Pat, are Ventura County officials releasing any new information whatsoever?
Well, you know what? I have someone who could answer that question for you, Sharon and Jeff. I am joined right now by Captain Garo Karagian. Captain, I must say, I mean, I was on the air when you were on the air last night. You've been out here for almost 18 hours now, nonstop. I did get a few hours sleep. I don't think you did.
Not yet. Not yet.
Well, bless you, first of all. I know this has hit you very hard because this is a small community, as you mentioned. So you're feeling not only for the sergeant who you knew personally, is that correct?
Absolutely. Ron was a friend of mine. He was a great deputy. He was a cop's cop. And he was, we're going to miss him. He was a SWAT operator, he was a trainer, he was a mentor. He did such great things for the residents of Thousand Oaks, and we're going to miss him. Words can't even describe it.
We talked about the sorrow here because you all know everyone. And you know more people in this community. Tell us about what you have learned so far in the investigation. It certainly has changed from 18 hours ago.
Yeah, so what we've learned so far is that the suspect was in the bar, and he opened fire. People started calling police. We responded. Sergeant Helis was one of the first responders to the scene. He entered along with a CHP officer, and they encountered gunfire. They returned fire, and then he was tragically struck. Later, he was pulled out and transported to a local hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. We later learned there were 11 additional victims, young people ranging in age from 18 to 40 years old, who also were victims inside the nightclub.
But early on, obviously, though, we thought that they were just injured, and then later to find out that they were actually fatalities. That's got to do something to your psyche as well.
It's absolutely tragic. This is the worst day in law enforcement in Ventura County, where so many of our residents were murdered, and as well as one of our brothers, same thing, going to stop that active shooter falling in the line of duty.
I want to ask you just quickly, because people don't really want to talk about the shooter in this case, but I do in terms of the investigation. There are still questions to be answered, like A, was he killed by gunfire from Sergeant Helis or from another officer, or did he shoot himself? We don't know that yet because of what? The autopsy results still have to be determined?
We'll get more information when the autopsy results come in. We'll have definitive information at that point. At this point, it's all preliminary, and it changes pretty rapidly. As you remember yesterday, we had lots of updates, lots of changes, and we hope to hold off and get the correct information out there.
Can you tell me what's going on behind us, Captain? As there is the command center. We know there are FBI agents, Ventura County Sheriff's Department, ATF. What are they doing?
They're going through the nightclub. They're going through in a methodical fashion. They want to see what evidence they can uncover. What we want to do is put together a minute-by-minute recap of what happened before the incident, during the incident, and after the incident. That's going to take some time, and that's what they're working on right now.
When we talked last night, I would say it was about maybe midnight, 12:30, and again, we didn't know that there were fatalities. The officers rushed in. We saw them have formation, go into the nightclub, and when they came out, though, there was a very different posture. I imagine at that time they did know that there were, well, they were looking for people. Is that right? Take me through that. There were still people hiding in the club.
When it actually happened, it was an extremely chaotic scene. Extremely chaotic scene. There were people hiding in bathrooms. There were people hiding in the attic. There were people hiding anywhere to get away from this crazed gunman. And so when officers responded, they had to go through that chaos and then obviously see what they see inside, which was horrible.
Are they? All right, Captain, so we know that there is an investigation ongoing. Tell me quickly about the families. Has everyone been notified? Those that have lost loved ones?
Yes, they have. All the victims' families have been notified, and we're waiting for the medical examiner's office to make the notification to the public, the press.
Okay, how soon do you think that will be?
It's probably going to be pending autopsy results to make sure that they go through that process before they do. They're going to be working through the night to try to complete those autopsies. Okay,
well, I know I'm the last person that you're talking to today, so I'm going to let you go and get some rest. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me, and I know this is going to be very harrowing for you in the next days or weeks to come, but I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, you're very welcome. That was Captain Gara Karajian, and you know, we're talking about the families being notified, but there are also still people that may not know about survivors or exactly what happened to them. That's where there's a reunification center set up, and that's where we go to Laurie Perez right now. Laurie?
Pat, this was the heart of sadness in Thousand Oaks today. The teen center behind me became the reunification center today. This was the place where friends and family members came to get news of their missing loved ones who were at borderline last night. We saw so many people entering anxious yet still hopeful and exiting just heartbroken.
His name was Cody Kaufman. My firstborn son.
As news of the mass shooting at Borderline Bar and Grill spread overnight, Jason Kaufman was relentless for hours, pressing his son's photo to the media, begging for information. And moments after he learned his oldest child, his first baby, Cody Kaufman, was killed, a father's searing grief poured out. He spoke lovingly of 22-year-old Cody, who was headed to the Army, whose dream was to be the best big brother to his two young brothers, both under 10 years old, and a sister yet to be born, whom he'll never meet.
Only him and I know how much I love, how much I miss. Oh, God, this is so hard. Oh, son, I love you so much. Oh.
Kaufman was among the sad march of family who came to the Thousand Oaks Teen Center, renamed the Reunification Center, for information about their missing loved ones who were at borderline. Joining them, those who shared the victim's pain in the most horrible, intimate way. Ben Kaddish was shot at the Granada Hills JCC in 1999. One of 4 children and 2 adults shot there in a mass shooting.
It's hard to explain. It's hard to put around your head what happened and how it keeps happening closer and closer to home. Last week was a synagogue shooting. I was shot because I'm Jewish. This week it's 20 minutes from my house. I mean, there's over 10 people dying on a weekly basis. And it's hard to fathom, to put into words what you feel.
And he was actually not the only victim of a mass shooting who came here today to offer that kind of intimate support that only other victims have and can share with each other. They were joined by therapists and faith leaders, all of whom told me they will be heading over to the vigil later this evening. We're live in Thousand Oaks tonight. I'm Laurie Perez. Back to you.
All right, Laurie, thank you. And as if to add insult to injury, superimposed over this tragedy is this canopy of smoke, as if it's suffocating Thousand Oaks and Newbury Park.
Indeed, it is burning in the Camarillo Springs area, Newbury Park area. 8,000 to 10,000 acres have burned. This fire started around 2 o'clock, and it's showing no signs of letting up. Of course, the winds are a big concern here. For that, let's go to Garth Camp. Garth?
Yeah, boy, we are still picking up the offshore winds. They're going to start to pick themselves up later on this evening again. Like I said yesterday, the bulk of this stuff will happen tonight in through tomorrow. Right now, we're seeing sustained winds at around 9 miles an hour. Let's start at the humidity, though. 6% up towards Camarillo, 8 towards Oxnard. As you kind of dive over just a little bit, though, into the Newbury Park area, parts of Newbury Park, as you come over the mountain range just a little bit, it picks up a little more humidity because you're out by the beaches. But nonetheless, you can see just how dry it is, especially where those winds continue to blow offshore for us. So right now, there's your sustained winds. We are actually picking a slight little sea breeze up towards the Santa Monica area, but we're averaging at around 9 miles an hour just out towards the fire location right now. 15 out of Santa Clarita, 7 right now up into Oxnard. I'm also talking around the same just as you get over towards Rocky Peak where they were dealing with that fire up by Simi Valley. And then, of course, off to the east, we're starting to see things pick up as well. So here's what the gusts look like. You can see they start to build tonight. The worst possible time when firefighters have a problem getting aircraft in the air. It's really going to start blowing tonight. 55 miles an hour Santa Clarita, 53 to Northridge. But you can see Oxnard over by Newbury Park as well. This whole area, it's going to start to pull offshore. That's why I've got the wide map, because you can see from Ventura to Oxnard over through Camarillo up on the grade there. You get some downsloping there, and it really pushes offshore. So that's by early tomorrow morning. It'll start a little earlier than that to pick up, but through the early morning hours tomorrow, it's going to continue to kick up, and you can see we'll lose a little bit of it by Friday morning. These are the gusts, but you can still see they're well into the 40s, even off down towards Santa Monica, off to the east, same thing. That's why our red flag warnings continue. By about Friday at 4 in the afternoon, we're still offshore, but we're losing the high gusts. The gusts will start to come down to 25 to 26 miles an hour into that area, and then we will quickly start to reverse things as we get Friday night into Saturday. We'll turn back onshore by the wind action, and that'll take us just through Saturday. There it is, through the afternoon on Saturday. We totally reverse direction. That'll bring up the humidity a little bit, but then quickly on Sunday, we'll start to turn it back around again. So Newbury Park right now, 68 degrees, east winds at around 8 miles an hour. You can see that gust maybe at 20. Now the humidity I'm showing you here, 27%. That's a little up because I'm thinking one of our stations, we get these from multiple stations, that station could be more towards the Pacific side over by the 101 freeway. It's obviously down into the single digits right now. Dew point down there as well. So that's what we're looking for right now, as those winds will continue to blow offshore. High wind warnings are in effect through at least 6 o'clock tonight. Red flag warnings obviously staying on through tonight at 10 o'clock. That does include the Santa Monica mountain range. We'll see if these get extended out as far as the wind warnings go. The next event we're going to see on Monday, I don't think hits advisory level, or it'll just skirt it. But until then, let's deal with the game of foot here. And that's what's going on with these red flag warnings. There's the temperatures. We'll lose a little bit on Saturday. Sunday, we'll start to drift a little more offshore, pick up the pace Monday morning a little bit. But once again, I don't think those will be as strong as what we're seeing. Just be vigilant, everybody. We'll keep you updated. Quick note, if you find yourself in the high deserts this evening, very cold tonight, wind-sheltered areas, hard freeze warnings will be in effect for the Antelope Valley. Take care of your animals. Make sure they're inside. Take care of any plants that need to be covered as well. Back to you guys.
All right, good to know, Garth. Thank you. We want to take you back to the mass shooting where people are stepping up to help the victims in a big way.
Fortuitously, there was a blood drive already scheduled, and today it was flooded with people all day long. CBS 2's Christine Lazar is there. Christine.
Jeff and Sharon, they're just now packing up the bloodmobile behind me. It has been a very long and exhausting day, but really a touching day, showing how this community has rallied around the survivors, the victims of the shooting. I want to show you some video from earlier today where you can see just how many people showed up. Hundreds and hundreds stretching out of the high school here, around the corner, down the block. There were people here waiting 3, 4, even 5 hours to give blood. Most of them turned away because they just didn't have enough time to get to everyone, but no one upset because they say they wanted to come down here and at least know that they were trying to do something, trying to be proactive. Now, those who live here in Thousand Oaks, many of them say they moved here because it's always on one of the lists of the safest cities in America. Now, it's also on the list of one of the deadliest mass shootings in America.
Everybody says it's not supposed to happen in your town, but this is thoroughly unprecedented. Yeah, we've had our murders, we have some unsolved, but this? Really? Yeah, no. I'm from a law enforcement family, and there's nothing worse than seeing this happen.
They will be back out here tomorrow at 10 a.m. inside the gym at Lorena High School to take more blood donations. People were signing up for appointments. They ran out of those as well. So they really have way more than they need. But the folks out here today who say, even though they may not have been able to give blood, they stood shoulder to shoulder with people who are from their community. They said it felt so good to be next to people who understood what they were going through. Back to you.
Christine Lazar reporting live from Thousand Oaks. We thank you for that.
Back up in the air where the smoke continues to cover much of Thousand Oaks, Newbury Park. Stu Mundell is in Sky 2 and has been keeping track. Stu, what kind of losses do we have?
I'm sorry, Jeff, I didn't hear that exact question, but I'm telling you that the fire right now is like you said, 8,000, 10,000 acres. We're watching some of these hot spots out here, and oddly enough, this ridgeline that we're looking at actually has power lines near it, and that might be one of the reasons why they're not hitting it that aggressively. The smoke is basically slowing down, clearing out in this area, which is great news. The flames right now, just a lot of hot spots out here, but sadly, some of these hot spots are actually very close to, if not actually in neighborhoods. Right now, we're pushing down into an area right by the Caneo grade. This is going to be the Scales area right there. So if you drive this spot, you'll know exactly where we're talking about. There's some construction buildings over here that have burned, and then of course there's a lot next to a mobile home where they were keeping some other travel trailers. They've lost some of those travel trailers as well. As far as structures, we don't have an exact number, but as we get a wider shot and pan from basically the industrial area over to more of a residential area, you can still see a couple of hot spots, most of them up in the hillsides though. This firefight going to be continuing from the air and on the ground well into the night. On the other side of this hill, on the Oxnard or the Camarillo side, we do see some flames working their way down the hillside into the Camarillo Springs proper area. There are a lot of homes out there as well. This was the area that they were very concerned about. This is the previous burn that we were talking about where the mudslides happened. Right now they have fire in that same location. You can see a lot of structure protection. No homes have been damaged in that side of the hill as of yet. Live in Sky 2 over the Caneo Grade, over the hill fire. Stu Mandel, back to you two in the studio.
It's lost a hero. It's lost a great human being. It's part of the loss, again, of the 11 other victims that are in there. And it's all part of the suffering that we're all going to go through as family members and parents and brothers and sisters on this tragic, senseless loss of life.
Thousand Oaks and the surrounding communities are coming together to honor the victims of the massacre at the Borderline Bar and Grill.
We've already seen prayer services that have been happening at the colleges up there, and more vigils are planned for this evening as well. Our Pat Harvey joins us now live from Thousand Oaks with how that tragedy is hitting the several colleges up there so hard. Pat.
You're so right about that, Jeff. In fact, there are 3 local universities that have been greatly impacted by this massacre. After all, it was college night at the Borderline Bar and Grill, and students were there to have some food, to dance, and just have a good time when gunfire rang out and just changed everything. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about these universities. They have confirmed that their students were at the scene of last night's shooting. That would be Cal Lutheran, Pepperdine University, and Cal State Channel Islands. In fact, Cal Lutheran has also confirmed that Justin Meek, one of their recent graduates, was a victim killed in the shooting. And you know the tragedy here too, when you hear about these young people, that they were such wonderful human beings. In fact, some of those students lost their lives, not just by gunfire, but they tried to help other people in all of that tragedy when the shooting rang out. Some of them actually tried to help some of their fellow human beings escape and were killed. We're going to go to Brittany Hopper now. She's standing by at Cal State Lutheran with more. Brittany.
And Pat, 23-year-old Justin Meek, he had just graduated from here. His sister currently goes here to this school. We're told he was very well known here on campus. I just want to go to some video that we took earlier today. Now, hundreds of people attended the afternoon services here at Cal Lutheran. Classes were canceled for the day. It's, of course, just been such a very emotional day, as you can imagine. Now, a lot of the students I talked to, well, they go to Borderline Bar on Wednesday nights. If we can now go to Justin's picture, I'm told that Justin was a promoter for the bar. And, you know, last night, as we've been reporting all day, it was college night. I'm told Justin was the type of guy who was friends with everyone. He had just a contagious smile and a passion for music. I'm told he was an incredible singer. We talked with some of his friends. Let's take a listen.
Was incredibly talented in a way that most people don't have the ability to be. And not only that, but he was loving and caring and happy and fun.
He was, like I said, he put himself first in front of everybody else, and that was the way that he passed. He put himself in front of bullets to save other people's lives, and that's what he did here every day at Cal Lu, is he tried to help people.
This has just been a common theme. We keep hearing these incredible stories about these victims. Now, there's supposed to be a vigil here that's going to start at 6 p.m., but unfortunately, I'm told that there's some roads that are blocked because of this fire or these fires that are happening. So we will keep you posted on whether or not this vigil will continue and how many people are going to be able to get here to this chapel here on campus.
Yeah.
For now, we're live in Thousand Oaks. Back to you guys in the studio.
That's a good point, Brittany.
Yeah,
Brittany, thank you.
That fire, as if conspiring against all of those people who want to come together.
Agreed. In the meantime, the FBI is working with local law enforcement to get a clearer picture of the man they say is behind the tragedy.
Here's what we know at this point about Ian David Long. He was 28, student at Cal State Northridge, a Marine, who served a tour of duty in Afghanistan. His neighbors say he displayed some disturbing behavior, though, months before the shooting.
And our Randy Page is live in Newbury Park, where he and his mother lived. Randy?
That's right. We've been in front of this home for a very long time today, watching law enforcement come in and out. The FBI, local law enforcement as well. They're trying to figure out if they can find anything inside this home that will help them understand why Ian Long committed this horrible murder. One of the key people who may be able to answer that question is his mother. Her name is Colleen. We watched as she left the house today, first taking a family dog and putting it into a vehicle and then getting into a car and driving away. Here's what we can tell you about Ian Long. He's 28 years old. As we mentioned, he's lived here with his mother since about 2006 in this home. And as you mentioned, he's a combat Marine veteran. He was a machine gunner, the military tells us. His last deployment in Afghanistan between 2010 and 2011. Neighbors here tell us he was very troubled and they were aware that there were problems. One of those neighbors lives directly behind them. In fact, he said he knew whenever Ian was home, and here's why.
Shouting, a lot of noise. Oh, I heard the arguments as soon as he moved in.
Okay. Was there any activity involving like a firearm?
No, but I heard like a shot one evening. It was late evening, and everything went quiet after that. Lights on, arguments, noisy, all that. And then as soon as he was gone for a few days, the place was quiet and back to normal. This is an excellent neighborhood, and we don't have anything like that happening here.
Special agent in charge of the FBI today said they will be talking to neighbors, going over every bit of evidence they can to try to get answers as to why this happened. Let's go back to you.
Right, Randy Page reporting live. Thank you. We want to take you back up to that fire, the Hill fire that's burning in Newbury Park area. Stu Mundell, what can you tell us?
Well, we're actually looking at some of these flames getting very, very close to some homes, but a lot of structure protection down there. We actually saw some firefighters making their way out between these buildings and just checking on or maybe putting out some hot spots. But these flames actually burning right up to some fences out there. I believe these are concrete walls that are the backyards of homes out here. Now, this area is actually happening right by the 101 freeway, but this is going to be closer to the, to the Caneo Grade area. It's right off the 101 freeway. This is these homes are like kind of snuggled in there, right in that area. But right now they're under a lot of threat, but firefighters are there protecting those homes. As far as the rest of the fire in the area, the 101 freeway still remains shut down. A line of fire still around the Newbury Park area, all the way out to the Caneo Grade. And of course, the firefighters are going to be out here for some time, live in Sky 2 over the Caneo Grade, over the Hill fire. Stu Mundell, back to you two in the studio.
Stu, I also received some information earlier that the OC Fire Authority has finally dispatched strike teams to fight this fire on the ground. This has been a battle for firefighters because the terrain has been so difficult to get to.
Exactly. So, and as the wind increases, which Garth has told us it will, and as we are already in nightfall, that's going to heavily restrict the air attack on this fire. So fires always get the upper edge at night, especially when the wind does not let up. Okay. Now, back to the shooting. Many people are describing this mass shooting gunman, Ian Long, as possibly someone who suffered from post-traumatic stress syndrome after serving in Afghanistan.
And CBS 2's Joy Benedict is live in Newbury Park, where his high school coach and run-ins had apparently run-ins with him before he joined the Marines. Joy.
That's right, Sharon. We're live in front of Newbury Park High School. This is where Ian Long attended school and graduated about 10 years or so ago. Obviously a very disturbing story out here, and we're hoping that they don't know what we were actually talking about. But anyway, Ian Long attended school out here. You can't see in the darkness right now, but this is actually the track where he ran track his senior year, and his track coach is the one who told us she knew many years ago when he was on this track team that there were some problems.
I turned on the news, I was watching it, and when they said the name, my jaw just dropped.
Ian David Long is a name this former high school coach hadn't heard in a long time.
but it's one she never forgot.
He attacked me. He attacked his high school track coach. Who does that?
For this former Newbury Park High School track coach, this day has been full of emotions, from sadness to guilt, because she never filed charges against Long after she says he assaulted her his senior year. Dominique Kalel says it happened during practice when someone found a phone and she was trying to figure out who it belonged to.
Ian came up and started screaming at me that that was his phone. He just started grabbing me. He groped my butt, he groped my stomach, he went around me, I pushed him off me, and I said, I'm not giving you the cell phone, get off. And I said, you know what, for that, you're off the team.
But Kalel says she was encouraged by other coaches in the school to accept an apology and to not ruin his future in the Marine Corps.
I should have reported it.
And although she never would have predicted this, Kalel says she doesn't believe this is just a case of PTSD. She says Long had issues long before he was ever a Marine.
There are hundreds of thousands of people with PTSD. They don't go around shooting people. This kid was mentally disturbed in high school, and there were signs, and the administration knew it.
Kalel is very adamant that she is clearly disturbed by everything that has happened today and that she wishes she would have done something a long time ago. And she says she hopes this is a lesson for schools going forward, that if you see a problem with a young person, to not be afraid to help get them the help that they need. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Joy. Wow. It is a sobering fact. Mass shootings are no longer rare.
So what would you do if you found yourself in an active shooter situation? CBS 2's Tina Patel talked to sheriff's deputies about that very thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department has become sort of an expert on mass shootings after that attack in 2015 in San Bernardino. And so now they are using the knowledge that they gained from that terrible event to try to help prepare others. For years, law enforcement agencies and first responders have trained for active shooter situations. But it wasn't until the San Bernardino attacks of 2015 that deputies realized the public also needed to know what to do in a worst-case scenario.
Most people have never been around a truly violent situation, so they're not going to know how to react. So that's why you need to do this type of training.
They say the shooting in Thousand Oaks is similar to the one at the Christmas party at the Inland Regional Center and the one last year during the Route 91 Music Festival in Las Vegas, in that people thought they were in a safe environment.
It could happen anywhere. It could happen at a movie theater, in a library, in a school, in a business. So we just want to get the public prepared.
This video from the LA County Sheriff's Department illustrates what many in law enforcement consider to be the best advice for people who encounter a gunman. Run and try to get as far as possible from the threat. If that's not possible, hide. And if that doesn't work, fight.
You need to make sure that you are doing whatever it takes to survive for you and your family.
Experts also say people should try to get in the habit of looking for exits when they're in new places and being aware of their surroundings.
If you have a plan, you'll have options and you'll have a higher chance of survivability.
Yeah, hopefully it is a plan that no one ever has to put into action. But the next training session for this active shooter, it's actually already been scheduled for December. It was scheduled ahead of time. If you want more information about that, it is free. It's open to anyone over the age of 14. You can go to our website, cbsla.com. We're going to put the contact information for the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. You can also contact them if you'd want some training at the workplace where you are or an organization that you're with. They say they are willing to work with you to try to do that. They just want to get everyone prepared. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
Tina Patel reporting live. Thank you. The massacre hits close to home for one of our local sports teams. Pat Harvey is there at the scene.
Pat, yeah, she has a response from the LA Rams. Pat?
That's so true, Jeff and Sharon. You know, it has had a profound effect on the LA Rams organization, and because of this, their practice facility is at Cal Lutheran University in Thousand Oaks. In fact, it's just 5 miles from the Borderline Bar and Grill. So today, the Rams issued a statement saying, quote, "The Los Angeles Rams organization is heartbroken by the horrific shooting that took place last night in our community of Thousand Oaks. Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims, their families, and our entire community." Then Coach Sean McVay had this to say.
You know, it always gives you a perspective on, you know, we get, sometimes I know me personally, you get upset about losing a game or whatever and kind of brings you back down and you really realize what's important in life and sometimes you take some of these things for granted and but we just can't wish anything but our thoughts, our prayers, our condolences for this terrible act that occurred.
And Rams punter Johnny Hecker tweeted, praying comfort and healing to those affected by this senseless shooting. Thank you to the first responders who put their lives on the line to protect and serve us every day. Thousand Oaks is my home. I will do everything in my power to help those in need of support. And our quarterback, Jared Goff, tweeted this out: heartbroken for our community, thinking about everyone involved as well as friends and family of the victims. Keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And you know, I said our Jared Goff, and I meant that. I mean, today it seems like everybody is part of the same community. You have people from all over the country here to cover this very tragic story. In fact, last hour, I talked with our own CBS Evening News anchor, Jeff Glor.
Every one of these situations, whether it's Sandy Hook, whether it's Pittsburgh, whether it's this, they hit people in different ways. And I think we try to be as sensitive to that as we can and understand that people have different reactions to all of this because it's tough.
You know, I would say right now, this is, of course, has happened in the small, calm, quiet community of Thousand Oaks, but everyone in our viewing area is certainly affected in a very emotional way. I think we all feel the pain from the families who are suffering, but we also try to come together in all of these stories of triumph and how the human spirit, the kindness of the human spirit really took over last night. This massacre, as horrific as it is, could have been worse. More lives could have been lost. And our hearts and prayers go out, obviously, to Sergeant Ron Helis and his family and all of law enforcement. I can't say that enough, and everyone here is expressing the same sentiment. So I will be back at the top of the hour for more on this tragedy from Thousand Oaks and, of course, that brush fire we've been talking about in Newbury Park. But for now, I'm Pat Harvey. Jeff and Sharon, back to you in the studio.
All right, Pat.
Pat, thanks so much. And it's almost kind of a cruel distraction, this brush fire, taking their thoughts off of what they've just gone through and now to their own survival and worried about some of these people's homes.
All right, let's send it over to Garth to check on the conditions for this firefight. Garth?
Well, right now, we'll get to the humidity still low. We're going to see some poor recovery tonight. It's going to recover a little bit, not much, but temperature-wise, let's start there. 79 into Camarillo and just over the grade there. So we're getting about 78-ish or so, right in that whole area on average, depending where you are. I mean, once you drop over towards the Pacific side of things, you get cooler temperatures a little bit, and you also pick up a little more humidity. 75 into Burbank at 73 right now. Downtown, there's a humidity from Oxnard to Camarillo, 6%. Dew points down in the single digits as well. Then as you start to just drop around the same area, all the way along the 101 there and up through Moore Park, it is bone dry out there. Van Nuys, 5%. Simi Valley coming in around the same. Moore Park as well, very, very low for us. We're actually picking a little bit of an onshore push just by Santa Monica. You can see those winds kind of kicking around and almost becoming a little bit of an eddy, but we're not going to see any clouds from it. So these are the sustained winds, 7 miles an hour in Oxnard, 6 towards Santa Monica, but they're going to really start to pick up again this evening. Now, at eye level winds for the most part for the evening, 15 to 20 miles an hour. You get up about 20 feet, though, you can go 30 to 50 mile an hour gusts heading that way, and that's what you're seeing. These are the futurecast wind gusts. By early tomorrow morning, it'll start sooner than that, but early tomorrow morning, that's the time we were talking about last couple of days. I thought we'd see the strongest transport of Santa Ana winds. 55 Santa Clarita. Look at Oxnard, 53. That is out towards the coast in Oxnard. So Newbury Park will be doing about the same thing over to that area, and even more as it accelerates off to the coast. 38 in a Big Bear, 29 into Santa Monica. And that's going to continue through most of the day tomorrow. Not till about noon will we start to ease just a little bit, but still the gusts are within 5 miles of the strongest point. So we're still getting heavy gusts. That's why we have high wind warnings out throughout the area, including the Santa Monica mountain range. By 4 o'clock Friday afternoon, you can see we've eased off. We're still getting gusts, but they're about half of the worst gusts that we're going to see. Now, the problem is most of the stuff's going to be happening overnight in the dark. It's bad enough they can't really fly aircraft for firefighting at that time. Even worse when you got the fires going on in pitch black. That is an ominous sign. And as we start to move through Friday, watch what happens. Late Friday into Saturday, we change direction and automatically go back on shore. That'll help a little bit with the humidity and some of the recovering. We just totally remove the direction in that area. Right now, 67 degrees over towards Newbury Park. It's an expansive area, so temperatures will vary. East winds at 10 miles an hour. We're gusting at 27. The relative humidity at 25%. That's on the Pacific side of Newbury Park. Let me give you a quick look at our our 7-day forecast, and then we'll check back with you at 6 o'clock tonight. Red flag warnings continue through tomorrow. High wind warnings. Don't forget Santa Monica Mountain Range, Hollywood Hills, Malibu. Those mean there's parking restrictions. Be vigilant. People up in Pepperdine as well. Be careful up by the campus there. Be vigilant on anything you see. We'll lose them on Saturday. We have another event coming away Sunday night, Monday. Doesn't look quite as strong as well. We'll keep you updated. And by the way, Moore Park has areas that they can take animals, horses. There's farms into that area if you check over there. Back to you guys.
Yeah, good point, Gar. Thanks. I'm going to take you back up to Sky 2. Stu Mundell over that fire. Stu, it doesn't look like it's letting up any.
Well, you know what, the fire actually is a little bit letting up. We're showing you one of these hot spots. This is like a run where it's going up a hillside. Can be very dramatic, but this area is actually in a spot between any kind of homes or any areas. Let's give you a quick look about what's going on out here. Let me reset up the camera a little bit, and there you go. These hot spots that you see right there and some of those lights, this is the actual area where it started. Most of this fuel in this spot, meaning the grass and etc., burned out already, but there might be a lot of hot spots out there. That fire basically burning along this ridge line out towards the west, and you can, as we pan along, you can see that one ridge of fire still burning. Then down there in the darkness, believe it or not, the 101 basically right underneath us right there, some of those blue lights are actually vehicles on the 101. We haven't heard about them reopening it anytime soon, but the danger of that heavy smoke earlier on and that fire jumping the line right there, that pretty much has passed, but right now they're using it for all their firefighting equipment. There was a hot spot right here in a small community that was getting very close to some homes and fences and backyards. Those flames dying down, basically the fuel burning itself out. Firefighters down there, they're all structure protection. They won't make their way up onto that hillside. That's a different type of firefighting group. Right now, though, there are plenty of hot spots, though, in the Caneo Grade area and also in Camarillo Springs and up in these hillsides. Many of these homes, though, at this point, are pretty much saved. The fire is going to lay down at night. Even though the winds may be about the same during the night, the temperatures will drop. That's going to give the firefighters an opportunity to start getting out there and getting their lines around it and maybe hearing some of those containment numbers. But in some of these spots, like right over here, underneath power lines, that might be one of the reasons why we're seeing this line of fire, because it's going to be difficult to fight with those power lines right there. You can see a lot of active flames as this fire basically still just burning out the fuels that are on the hillside. Again, fuels being the grass and the shrubs that are on these hillsides. Live in Sky 2 over the Newbury Park area and the hill fire. Stu Mundell, back to you two in the studio.
Although, yes, and while we keep this picture up for just a minute, just yesterday we were reporting that the major power companies in Southern California issued alerts that they would be cutting power to the very power lines that Stu is talking about in the event of winds that could cause those lines to come down. So we certainly hope that the power companies are following through with those advisories. Now, as we go back to what is happening just about 18 miles south of where Stu is flying over, back to Thousand Oaks, we talked to a local clinical psychologist who has some advice for people who have to cope with mass shootings.
Yeah, Orange County reporter Michelle Geely has the details.
Yeah, it's really, really important to identify the positive in every negative situation.
Newport Beach psychologist Jerry Weichman and his colleagues work with survivors after the Route 91 massacre in Las Vegas. And the advice he gave them, he's giving all of us today who are scared and grieving after the latest mass shooting.
It's absolutely 100% natural to be worried and to be concerned. I think that if you look at this statistically, that even though the odds are coming up, it's still higher likelihood of dying in a car accident than in a mass shooting.
Trauma specialists use several techniques to help people who are anxious and afraid. One way to get to a calmer state.
So what we teach people is how to be in the here and now by identifying your 5 senses. What do you see, smell, hear, feel, taste, right here, right now at this moment in time, and it brings you back to where everything is okay.
And it's important, Weichman says, not to focus on what might happen in the future.
A lot of people get anxiety because their thoughts are in the future about something that might happen to them or other loved ones. The future is bad too because we can't tell what's going to happen next. We've never been 100% about an assumption that we've made, and that's a square peg round hole. So what we want to do if you're going to think about the future is visualize things being okay for you and your loved ones, then go back to right here, right now in the present.
Jerry Weichman understands that some people will hear about mass shootings and will want to avoid public places with crowds.
And so what we find with stress and anxiety is that, your brain is telling you certain things that aren't happening right now and may never happen in your life, and it creates a mirage. And so you can't get reactive to the mirage. You know, you have to, one of the ways to recalibrate your brain is to push through the things that are aversive to you, to show your brain that you can do it and it's okay.
It's a good idea, the psychologist says, after a situation like this, to turn a negative into something positive. And he suggests something that a lot of people are doing, and that's, for instance, to create a GoFundMe account online to help a victim's family, or perhaps write a letter to a legislator to express your feelings. In Orange County, Michelle Geely.
All right, let's go live to CBS 2's Rachel Kim.
She's actually live at a place where people are doing the very thing that that Michelle was just talking about, which is getting together. They are at a vigil in Thousand Oaks City Hall.
Yeah, guys, we're at the Civic Center in Thousand Oaks. A vigil is supposed to start at 6 p.m. inside the theater behind me. But as you can see right here, a huge crowd has already gathered out on the lawn. This is an impromptu prayer circle that folks have started. They've been in this circle for quite a while now, about 15, 20 minutes. They're just holding hands, honestly, and they're very somber. At some points, they're praying. At some points, they're also singing hymns. But everybody just kind of holding on to one another, very emotional, obviously. There's a lot of folks here tonight, community members who just felt like they wanted to be here, they needed to be here. There are some political groups out here as well, also trying to make a statement, as well as some church groups trying to bring comfort to those who are here. So what you're looking at, again, is an impromptu prayer circle that people have started to just comfort one another and be with one another. But the city is hosting a formal vigil inside the theater here just at about 6 o'clock. Back to you guys.
No.
All right. I have something to say. Yeah, you know, when something so horrible like this happens, people need a gathering place. People need to go somewhere, a sanctuary, to be able to pay their respects, to grieve openly.
But Rachel, I may have missed the, do we still have Rachel? I may have missed what you reported, Rachel. Is this more impromptu or is it being led by clergy?
This circle, this prayer circle out here is kind of impromptu. The official vigil will start inside the theater, indoors. But I think there's a lot of church groups out here that felt like people needed comfort and needed to be together at this time. So they have started prayers and started singing hymns as well. So a lot of emotion out here, as you can imagine.
Yeah,
and this isn't the only vigil.
No.
Archbishop Jose Gomez is going to be leading another vigil at 7:30, not far away from where Rachel is.
Brittany Hopper was in a vigil earlier, but a lot of people had a difficult time getting to that vigil because of what's
the
happening,
closure of the 101.
Of the fire, yeah.
And speaking of that closure, Stu Mundell is keeping track of really what isn't happening on the roads and what is happening with regard to trying to battle that fire. Do we have Stu? I can hear the helicopter.
Jeff, very well put. You know, we're watching these flames here. They're still eating up that fuel on this ridge line. This is basically from the start area, near the start area. You can see some flashing lights down there on the ground. I can guarantee you it's very dark down there, but there is a lot of firefighting activity where they can. They're basically trying to corral this fire. They're allowing it to burn in some areas because they know that fuel is just going to be burned up, and there's very little they can do about that. But they're trying to corral it, basically, to keep it from burning down into other areas where there are homes. Right now, you can still see in that smoke that the wind is still kind of pushing these flames along these hillsides, and there is a lot to burn up in the hillsides. As far as the residential areas, as we move away from the Newbury Park area over to the Cajon Pass and over to the Camarillo Springs area, the Caneo Grade, and then the Camarillo Springs area, you can see a lot less hot spots out there, a lot of lights and homes that are still standing this evening because of the awesome work that the firefighters have done. Up here we can see some fire in that hillside, but moving away from homes right now, down in those residential areas, right at the edge. A lot of fire trucks out there ready to do what they need to do. That's all structure protection this evening. And then also we were hearing that this is a multi-task force right now. Many different fire agencies are out here. CAL FIRE was in the air earlier on. They still have some helicopters dropping. Ventura, obviously the lead, but they have a lot of other firefighters down here as well. 101 still closed both directions through the Caneo Grade. Live in Sky 2, Stu Mundell, back to you in the studio.
With the fire, there is an option of fighting back and a chance that there will be success. 18 miles to the south at the Borderline Bar and Grill, the casualties are finite, and there is no longer a chance there. That tragedy in Thousand Oaks is being felt, not just across California, but all around the country.
The emotional sights and sounds from the first shots to the salutes to the fallen have touched everyone.
Officer down, advise if it's CHP at the borderline, officer down.
And then all of a sudden you hear like the bang bang of like gunshots. Like everyone just dropped down to the floor. So then our friends got the bar stools and they started slamming it against the window so we could get out. We just tried to get out, get behind a car, get behind something, and then we just tried to take cover.
Upon going through the front door, the sheriff's sergeant was struck multiple times with gunfire. The high patrol officer stepped back and secured the perimeter until additional units arrived, and he rescued the sheriff's sergeant out of the line of gunfire. Sergeant Hillis died at the the sergeant passed away at the hospital.
Breaking news right now on CBS 2 News at 6 p.m.
Good evening. There are flames raging in Newbury Park. Homes and buildings are threatened. The 101 is shut down. And then just miles to the south, tragedy has unfolded late last night.
Guys, run! Go! He's coming out this door!
Thousand Oaks is unspeakable. A gunman kills 12 people, including a sheriff's sergeant, on college night of all things at a popular bar and grill. The shock and horror of the loss, along with what has happened, is just starting to set in, and tonight the grief is overwhelming. My co-anchor Pat Harvey is live in Thousand Oaks near the crime scene. Pat?
And Jeff, I can tell you that this is a city still struggling to come to grips with such brutal and senseless violence. You know, I'm standing right in front of the parking lot to the Borderline Bar and Grill. I should say it's right across the street where normally you would have customers parking their cars, going in to enjoy food and dancing, having a good time, but not the case tonight. It is bustling with law enforcement, collecting evidence and trying to complete their investigation. Jeff, you and I were talking last night as this massacre began to unfold, and we know that last night was college night at the Borderline Bar and Grill, and many of the victims were students. They were young, a lot of them college kids. One was a bouncer, in fact, another a veteran sheriff's sergeant, Sergeant Ron Dellis, who gave his life trying to save those of the students. He was the first man through the door of the Borderline Bar and Grill after that shooting started. And our Rachel Kim is live at a vigil for the victims of the shooting at this hour. Rachel?
We are at the Civic Center in Thousand Oaks. The city is hosting a vigil right now inside the Kavli Theater, but take a look outside here on the front lawn. A lot of people gathered here before the vigil started, hours before the vigil started, just coming together. Over there in the distance, that was an impromptu prayer circle that people started before this vigil began. They just wanted to be together. They held hands for quite some time, said some prayers, sang some hymns. These are community members. These are church groups out here. There are also political groups trying to make a statement as well. But this crowd is thinning out right now here out on the lot because a lot of folks are now headed inside the theater where this vigil is starting. So this is a huge turnout, as you can imagine, understandably. A lot of people looking for some comfort with one another, and no doubt they will get it here tonight. Back to you, Pat.
All right. Thank you for that, Rachel. Yes, they are certainly in need of comfort, and it's nice that they can find it in each other, because this is a very, very strong and comforting community. You know, there are so many aspects to this story, of course. There are the survivors, there are the victims, there are the heroes, and yes, there is a shooter. Our Dave Lopez begins our team coverage tonight with more on this shooting. Dave?
Well, Pat, this is just an indication. This town is in shock. It's in mourning. Rachel mentioned the size of the crowd over there. I think people are just trying to find a way to comfort themselves, because this is a community that is not known for crime violence. This is a community where people move to get away from violence. But in the scene behind me, it's necessary work, but gruesome work. They are going to have to be able to get the bodies prepared for an autopsy so they can get to the bottom of exactly what happened inside last night. The awful sound of gunfire inside the Borderline Bar and Grill. And from the outside, you could hear that same awful sound.
Guys, run! Go! He's coming out this door!
And we heard shots, and everyone kind of looked around, and then we heard more shots. I heard like 6 shots. Everybody piled on top of each other.
And they picked us up, and they threw me and my girlfriend out the window. There's like nowhere. It's like, those are my people. And it's just not fair. It's not fair.
It was college night inside the Borderline Bar and Grill, and people panicked.
All I wanted to do was get as many people out of there as possible.
And that's what people did. Breaking windows, crawling to safety, hiding in the bathrooms. The 911 dispatch call.
The subject was at the front shooting at everybody. DT's still inside the bar. Officer down. Sound 3 down and unresponsive.
That officer down, Ron Hellis, a 29-year veteran of the Ventura Sheriff's Office, who was on patrol nearby, talking to his wife on the phone when he got the call, and he said, "Honey, I gotta go. I'll see you later tonight. I love you." Less than 10 minutes later, he ran into the bar, was shot, and killed.
Sergeant Hillis died at the... The sergeant passed away at the hospital.
Reset! Arms!
Earlier this morning, his body escorted to the coroner's office in Ventura. The suspect, identified by police as Ian David Long, shot and killed himself. As for a motive, they say they have none. People who live in this community are shocked. In fact, one person told me, "We nicknamed this place Mayberry RFD." Why? Because nothing ever bad happens here, she told me. It did last night. According to a couple of investigators I talked to, they said it's too early to speak exactly on the record, but they are convinced that what Sergeant Hellis did as he entered that bar and grill last night, his actions saved many, many lives. And they told me he did die a hero. Pat, back to you.
That's right, Dave. In fact, we understand that Sergeant Hellis called his wife before actually going out and told her that he loved her, and he had to go, always answering the call of duty. Now, each of the 12 victims who died in this massacre have connections. They have family, friends, parents, brothers and sisters. Some even have children. Our Brittany Hopper is live on the campus of Cal Lutheran, where a service for the victims of this massacre has just begun. Brittany?
And Pat, Justin Minks was just 23 years old. He had just graduated from Cal Lutheran. We are told that he was very well known here on campus. If we could just go to some video from earlier that we took. Now, hundreds of people were out here. They attended the afternoon services here at Cal Lutheran. Classes were canceled for the day. It's, of course, been a very emotional day, as you could imagine. A lot of the students I talked to, well, they go to Borderline Bar on Wednesday nights. And if we can now go to Justin's picture, I'm told that Justin was a promoter for the bar, and as we've been reporting all day, last night was college night. Now, I'm told Justin was the type of guy who was friends with everyone. He had a contagious smile and a passion for music. We talked to some of his friends. Take a listen.
Was incredibly talented in a way that most people don't have the ability to be. And not only that, but he was loving and caring and happy and fun.
He was, like I said, he put himself first in front of everybody else, and that was the way that he passed. He put himself in front of bullets to save other people's lives, and that's what he did here every day at Cal Lu, is he tried to help people.
Now, a prayer service began here about 6 p.m. We've seen about a dozen people come here. Unfortunately, we're told that a lot of the roads around here are blocked because of the fire, so we don't know how many people are going to actually be able to get here to this prayer service. We are also told that around 7:30 p.m. there should be a vigil, but again, because of the road blockage around here, because of the fire, we just don't know how many people are going to be able to get here. So far, a couple dozens now are showing up here, mostly students who live here on campus and who can easily get here to this chapel. Again, 6 p.m. is a rosary vigil, and then at 7:30 p.m. is a community vigil. Pat, back to you.
It's not making sense.
Because Pat is having a little technical trouble, I'm going to pick it up from here until we can get back to Pat. Our Laurie Perez now joins us with the story of another shooting victim and the heartbreak as his father learned his son didn't survive. Laurie?
Yeah, this was the heart of sadness in Thousand Oaks today. The teen center behind me was the reunification site where families came to get news of their missing loved ones who had been at Borderline last night. All day we watched as people entered anxious but still hopeful and then exit in heartbreak. Understandably, not many of them wanted to speak with us, but Jason Kaufman did. He is the dad of Cody Kaufman, and he'd been communicating with the media since news first started spreading about the shooting. He was relentless, pushing his son Cody's photo to the media, begging for information. Early this morning, he made the brutally sad announcement that he'd been notified his 22-year-old son was among those killed. He was overcome with grief, but bursting to tell us about Cody, his love of baseball and his fishing, his dream of joining the Army, and his commitment to being the best big brother around to his two younger brothers, both under 10 years old, and also to a little sister on the way, a little sister who will now never meet him.
My firstborn son. Only him and I know how much I love, how much I miss. Oh, God, this is so hard. Oh, son, I love you so much.
That was just a devastating moment here this morning. There were lots of experts, therapists, and who came to comfort Kaufman, but the most powerful support might have come from the other victims of mass shootings. A couple came who lost their daughter in Aurora, and also a young man who himself was shot in 1999 in a mass shooting at the Granada Hills JCC. We are live in Thousand Oaks tonight. I'm Laurie Perez. Back to you.
All right, Laurie, thank you for that. Now, I know so many of you are wondering the same as we are. Why? Why did this happen? Why would someone want to kill so many people? Well, our Randy Page is live outside the gunman's home in Newbury Park now, and he is trying to get some answers as to what was in this gunman's mind and why he could possibly do what he did. Randy?
Pat, you know, that really is one of the most important and lasting questions here, and there are very many federal and local law enforcement who are trying to figure that out. We've been at this house since about 6:30 this morning, and this is what we watched all day long. FBI and local law enforcement going in and out, taking evidence, trying to figure out if there's anything inside this home that could help them to understand why Ian Long committed this mass murder. One of the people who may be able to answer that question was also in the house all day talking to them, and that's this woman. Her name is Colleen Long. This is Ian Long's mother, and they're hoping that she may be able to help give them information to answer some of these questions. We can tell you that Ian Long was 28 years old, as I mentioned, lived with his mother here at the home since about 2006. He is a combat Marine veteran. Military tells us he was a machine gunner, and that he spent some time in Afghanistan between 2010 and 2011. We can also tell you that in April, there was such a disturbance inside the home that the guy who lives right next door, Tom Hansen, decided he better call 911 and get help. And he told us why he made that call.
It seemed that he was like tearing down a house or something. I called the police on him that time just because I didn't know if he was hurting himself. And I certainly didn't want that. And they had detectives here, and they had mental health experts, and that they dealt with it. I assumed he was getting some kind of mental help treatment. Since that time, there has not been any more of those types of problems here.
Today, the FBI special agent in charge of the LA office said they are going over very carefully his digital footprint, looking at social media and anything they can find to try to get some answers. And Pat, it's clear they have a whole lot to work with. Neighbors here have spoken to them. They've been able to get information and evidence out of this home. And they also have his mother, who could be a wealth of knowledge to try to get an understanding as to why this happened. Let's go back to you.
All right, Randy, thanks for that. And we imagine that the mother is cooperating. You know, I think I wouldn't go out on a limb in saying that she is also a victim in this as well. Well, you know, our Joy Benedict has also been working this story, and she talked to one woman who said that this gunman was trouble long before he even went to Afghanistan.
I turned on the news, I was watching it, and when they said the name, my jaw just dropped.
Ian David Long is a name this former high school coach hadn't heard in a long time, but it's one she never forgot.
He attacked me. He attacked his high school track coach. Who does that?
For this former Newbury Park High School track coach, this day has been full of emotions, from sadness to guilt, because she never filed charges against Long after she says he assaulted her his senior year. Dominique Kalel says it happened during practice when someone found a phone and she was trying to figure out who it belonged to.
Ian came up and started screaming at me that that was his phone. He just started grabbing me. He groped my butt, he groped my stomach, he went around me, I pushed him off me, and I said, I'm not giving you the cell phone, get off. And I said, you know what, for that, you're off the team.
But Kalel says she was encouraged by other coaches in the school to accept an apology and to not ruin his future in the Marine Corps.
I should have reported it.
And although she never would have predicted this, Kalel says she doesn't believe this is just a case of PTSD. She says Long had issues long before he was ever a Marine.
There are hundreds of thousands of people with PTSD. They don't go around shooting people. This kid was mentally disturbed in high school, and there were signs, and the administration knew it.
Kalel says she was encouraged by other coaches and the school district to not report Long. She, of course, wishes now that she would have done so, and she hopes this serves as a lesson for school districts going forward, that if they see a problem with a student, to do something about it then. From Newbury Park, Joy Benedict, CBS 2 News.
And our live coverage of the shooting massacre in Thousand Oaks will continue in just minutes. But for now, I'm going to send it back to my co-anchor, Jeff Michaels, in the studio. Jeff?
Pat, thank you so much. And we have one other big story. It is a breaking news story that is happening right now. The wildfire that is threatening homes and buildings just to the north of where Pat is. Our Stu Mundell is live in Sky 2. Stu?
Hey, Jeff, you can see these flames still burning out here, and you can see the fire still very, very active. It kind of lays down, and then it pops back up. This is actually going to be the Newbury Park area. This is the area where that fire started. And we can move along the ridge line right here, and you can see one of those really, really hot spots. There must be a lot of fuel right there. Now, Ventura Fire, they're down on the ground. They do have a helicopter in the air, and a couple of other helicopters as well, still working into the night, dropping water on these flames. But as we pan along, you can actually see the direction the fire took this afternoon and made its way out of the Newbury Park area into the Camarillo grade and then into the Camarillo Springs area. Now the 101 freeway still closed in both directions. They did lose a couple of structures down here near the 101 freeway. Right now though, those structures, pretty much those fires have been put out. Fire department still on scene at a lot of these neighborhoods doing a lot of structure protection this evening. You can see this one of these neighborhoods right there. The fire earlier on was making its way right up to the back of these homes, but the firefighters there, they stopped those flames and saved those structures. This scenario was happening all afternoon through the area out here. In the end, though, they've lost a couple of structures. We haven't heard of any homes that have been destroyed, though. Right now, though, fire still stands at almost 10,000 acres. We haven't heard any containment numbers. Live in Sky 2 over the Camarillo grade and the Hill fire. Stu Mundell, back to you guys in the studio.
All right, and Stu is also flying directly over CBS 2's Adriana Weingold. She is also at the scene of this fire burning in Newbury Park. Let's go to her now. Adriana. Do we have her? All right. Adriana, we'll get a connection to her. In the meantime, we'll talk to Garth about the winds, whether they're going to increase or whether we have a little bit of respite tonight. Garth.
No, they're going to start to pick up. Remember yesterday we were talking about that. Tomorrow morning is when they're going to get the strongest for us before they start to lay down just a little bit. Right now, Newbury Park, 66 degrees, east winds, 12 miles an hour. We're getting about a 30-mile-an-hour gust. Now, the relative humidity I'm showing you here is 23%. Jeff, that's on the side that's more towards the Pacific side. You know how wide it is over there in Newbury Park? It's lower, much lower than that as you are by the immediate fire into the single digits, as a matter of fact. So that's what we're watching for us right now. You can see we have red flag warnings up through the entire area. High wind warnings continue there as well. Camarillo, 5%. That's where we're running over towards the 101. 5 or 6%. As you start to get over towards the mountainous side, that's where you start to pick up a little more of that humidity. 5% over to Van Nuys. Over up by Rocky Peak, where we had the incident earlier that was going on, we're picking about 7% up. So the humidity dangerously low until you get down to the south and off to the east and stay inland, or not inland, towards the coastal plain. But you can see the winds are already doing their thing into those areas. There's the sustained amount right now. We're actually getting a little bit of an onshore push just towards the South Bay as the winds kind of wrap around towards the Catalina area, and that kind of pushes them on into that area. But you can see as we increase through tonight, late tonight, early tomorrow morning, the worst possible time in the dark, that the winds will really start to pick up. 55 miles an hour, Santa Clarita, 51 Santa Paula, and then through Newbury Park, the same thing. Eye level from the ground, you'll see through the first part of the evening 20 to 30 mile an hour winds, but you get up 20, 30 feet, it jumps up to 50 mile an hour gust up into those areas. And you can see the extent from Ventura all the way out into Oxnard. We'll get those wild winds continuing to blow. That doesn't leave our friends in the IE out of it as well. So be careful out there. Fontana, San Bernardino, the Cajon Pass, things are going to be howling as we progress through tonight in through tomorrow morning. That'll be the strongest amount of winds before they start to change direction. By 11:30 tomorrow, still in the 40s. These are the gusts, but better than what we'll see through the evening hours tonight. So it's going to be a wild ride out into that area for firefighters and everybody this evening. Please make sure to check. There are places you can take large animals over in Moore Park. There's different areas there you can check off with the Moore Park area, the farms over there that they're going to do for evacuation for horses if that's necessary, large animals as well. By tomorrow at 5 o'clock, you see we ease off the gas. Watch what happens as we get late Friday evening, Jeff, and into Saturday morning. We quickly change direction. We start to go back onshore. Once that materializes, we'll get more humidity. We'll bring it onshore, but just as quick as we go back onshore, we'll have another area low pressure dropping in through the Great Basin on Monday. And that will bring us another Santa Ana event. Right now, it doesn't look as strong as what this one has been for us. Trust me, they could be worse. We have those high wind warnings, but certainly it's going to be blowing tonight. That gets things moving around, gets those embers flying. They could fly a half a mile way off into the distance. That's the problem with this. And because they can't get aircraft up at night, especially with the winds, it's going to be even more miserable for the firefighters that are out into that area. By Saturday at 6:30, the high kind of squeezes in there. That low starts to slide down on Sunday into Monday, and that'll increase the wind yet again for us. So 84 at the Sand tomorrow. That's the effect of the offshore push. Then as we go Saturday and Sunday, we'll start to lose the winds a little bit, but warm air will be moving in, so we'll still stay up there. It'll be a beautiful weekend, actually. And then on Monday and Tuesday, you can see we ramp it up just a little bit downtown towards the coast as we start to drift offshore yet again for the Inland Empire. Red flag warnings continue basically the whole area. I wouldn't be surprised, Jeff, to see these get extended out. The other thing I want to give you a heads up on quickly is if you're in the Antelope Valley tonight, very cold. Watch your pets, cover your plants that are cold sensitive because we'll see hard freeze warnings up there, extended periods below about 20 degrees in wind sheltered areas. Jeff, back to you.
All right, Garth has just told you what is going to happen. Stu Mandel is over the fire to tell you what is happening, and you can see just how that fire is blowing horizontally, and that's because of the wind. Stu.
Well, we're looking at some really big hot spots out here as we're watching these flames getting into some hillsides. The light winds are still really pushing these flames, though, along with all of that fuel that's out here. Now, this is the hill fire started earlier this afternoon. It's right about the 10,000 acre mark. This area that we're looking at right now, very impressive with fire, but not anywhere near any homes, and that is huge for the firefighters this evening. They have had a lot of firefight in areas where there were a lot of homes. That would be over here towards towards the Camarillo Springs area. Right now, though, a couple of hot spots still up in that hillside that we can see right there, but most of the homes down closer and a little bit lower on the hillside are safe for the evening. You can see a little bit of a glow on that hillside, that little bit of glow, all embers, so it gives you an idea how close it did come to some of these neighborhoods. Right now, though, this fire still 0% containment. 101 freeway still closed both directions, and that firefight still continues out here. This is the Hill Fire out in the Newbury Park area. Live in Sky 2, I'm Stu Mandel. Back to you in the studio.
Stu, thank you very much. And from Stu, we go to CBS 2's Adriana Weingold. She is at the scene of the fire, right beneath where Stu is flying. Adriana?
Yeah, well, this fire is still raging out of control here near Newbury Park. You can see the flames here on the hillside behind me, and the wind really starting to pick up this evening, making it a very difficult firefight. Now, this started at around 2 in the afternoon at Hill Canyon Road and Santa Rosa Road, and it quickly grew to 10,000 acres. That's the latest number we have right now as firefighters are working to get people and animals who are in the way of the fire out of the way of the fire. They can't really update the numbers just yet. Now, we do have some mandatory evacuations to tell you about: Vallecito Trailer Park, Camarillo Springs, Cal State University Channel Islands, Dos Vientos, and Bell Canyon. Those are all mandatory evacuations. There is also a hard closure of the 101 in both directions between Orchard Road and Pleasant Valley Road. There are a couple of evacuation centers to also tell you about: Orchard Community Center, Camarillo Community Center, as well as Rancho Santa Susana Recreation Center. Now, again, it is incredibly dry and windy out here, making for a very difficult firefight for the firefighters on the ground. You can see our live picture of the fire on the hillside here. It really hasn't laid down at all today. It has continued to move acre after acre, and authorities want anyone who is in one of those mandatory evacuation zones, if you are in those areas, to please heed the warnings and get to safety. For now, we are live in Newbury Park. Adriana Weingold, back to you.
We heard more gunshots, and then these incredible humans just jumped up and started smashing out the windows.
And they picked us up and they threw me and my girlfriend out the window.
And everybody was just like, jump, because we were trapped. And so we jumped 2 stories down to the ground.
Stories of survival from the mass shooting at the Borderline Bar and Grill. We are near the scene. In fact, it's right across the way from me, where just a bevy of law enforcement is there, gathering evidence, going through the scene, trying to find out anything they can about the shooter and the carnage that he left behind. We're going to tell you more about the victims right now, though. The victims, of course, are leaving behind heartbroken family and friends. We continue to learn more about all 12 of them. It takes time. One of them, however, is Noel Sparks. She worked part-time at Calvary Community Church in Westlake Village while she went to school. Her best friend, Jennifer Avalos, wrote her friend a message about how much she'll miss her.
I wish I could FaceTime you one last time, just to say that I miss you. And thank you for being the most influential person I've ever met, for accepting not only me and loving me, but everyone else around, friends and family that loved you, for being someone that impacted lives of so many, and you will never be forgotten.
And a pastor at the church where she worked said this out of his mouth: "If God is God, how could this happen?" Well, Jeff, no doubt many people are asking that question tonight. I'll see you in a bit. Back to you in the studio now.
As they have too many times here in the United States. Pat, thank you very much. Our Jim Hill is here, and you wonder, why is sports a part of this coverage? It is. Cal Lutheran University, right near where the shooting happened. Cal Lutheran, that lost a student, is home to the Rams.
It certainly is, and the Ram players really care and love that particular area and that school. When you think about it, Jeff, that's for sure. Coach Sean McVay says that his teams are really hurting for the city.
We just can't wish anything but our thoughts, our prayers, our condolences for this terrible act that occurred. And it's just amazing that one person's act can affect so many people in a negative way.
Ram kicker Johnny Hecker lives in Thousand Oaks. He tweeted this, saying, quote, "Praying comfort and healing to those affected by this senseless shooting. Thank you to the first responders who put their lives on the line to protect and serve us every day. Thousand Oaks is my home, and I will do everything in my power to help those in need of support. End of quote. Now, Ram quarterback Jared Goff also tweeted this, saying, quote, heartbroken for our community, thinking about everyone involved as well as friends and family of the victims. Keep them in your thoughts and prayers, end of quote. Now, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Lakers, the Dodgers, the Angels, the Galaxy, LAFC also tweeted messages of support and condolence. And tonight, the LA Kings and Minnesota Wild players in hockey will wear this "Enough" sticker in honor of the shooting victims. Jeff, the Kings will also hold a blood drive tonight at Staples Center.
My, that's wonderful of them.
It's all. Yeah. It just goes to show you the heart that our athletic teams have in times of crisis like this, and they're all coming forward big time. That's for sure.
All right. Jim Hill, thank you very much. We're now going to go to Simi Valley. Our new reporter, Leslie Marin, she is there, and she is there for a blood. All right, forgive me. I've been told now we're not going to go to Pat or to Leslie. We're going to go to Pat Harvey. Pat.
Hi there, Jeff and Jim. Yeah, just some final moments out here. This is a night of busy work right now. As we had mentioned, law enforcement is across the street gathering everything they can to try to make some sense of what happened in this senseless tragedy. Neighbors are being talked to. They're getting more information about the shooter himself. And there are services and prayer vigils held for the families of the victims who are no doubt in such great pain right now. But they do have a community that has come together to help in every way they can to help their suffering. As Jim just showed us, the Los Angeles Rams and other members of the sports community are all coming together. Thoughts and prayers are with those who are left, those who still have to survive. And just to think, it all started last night around 11:20 when a call of shots fired rang out and lives forever would be changed. Let's take a look back at that emotional day today.
Officer down, advise if it's CHP at the borderline. Officer down.
I've only seen one shooter. Unknown if I hit him.
Active shooter in progress. Shots being fired inside the business.
Approximately 30 shots inside borderline, and we'll have multiple calls coming in from different addresses of people fleeing from borderline as the incident progresses.
He shot the front desk cashier, and then he went to the towards the office. And I started shooting there, and I saw the people trying to jam into the office and close the door. I don't know what happened.
It was a normal Wednesday. We were at the bar, you know, having fun, dancing. And then all of a sudden you hear like the bang bang of the gunshots. Like everyone just dropped down to the floor. So then our friends got the bar stools and they started slamming it against the window so we could get out. That's how we were able to get out. They broke the window. They broke the window and we were able to climb out and get out.
I told, her to get down, all my friends to get down. We went in behind we stayed behind the stage, got out, went through the kitchen, went through the back door. She got out. I went in, got some more people to get out. We just tried to get out, get behind a car, get behind something, and then...
Yeah, we just tried to take cover.
From there, all we did was just kind of sit there and wait and just kind of play Doug, I guess.
Sheriff's 911 received multiple calls of shots being fired at the Borderline Bar and Grill in Thousand Oaks. A highway patrol officer and a sheriff's sergeant made entry into the Borderline because they heard shots being fired and felt there might be additional victims inside. Upon going through the front door, the sheriff's sergeant was struck multiple times with gunfire. The highway patrol officer stepped back and secured the perimeter until additional units arrived, and he rescued the sheriff's sergeant out of the line of gunfire. Sergeant Hillis died at the... The sergeant passed away at the hospital.
And it is 6:31, and we are now going to return to our breaking news, the news that is not going to finish this evening, not by a long shot. Flames raging in Newbury Park. There are homes threatened. There are buildings threatened. A large swath of the 101 is completely shut down. And then just miles to the south, of course, what you just saw, tragedy unfolded late last night.
Run! Go! He's coming out this door!
To call it terror in Thousand Oaks is an understatement. A gunman kills 12 people, including a sheriff's sergeant, on college night at a popular bar. The shock and horror of that loss, along with what has happened, is just starting to set in. And tonight, the grief, as you can see, is overwhelming. And my co-anchor, Pat Harvey, is live in Thousand Oaks, right near the crime scene. Pat?
You're so right about that, Jeff. In fact, it hasn't quite been 24 hours, but the city is still struggling to come to grips with what happened here. And when I say happened here, I mean really right across the street from me. There's so much grief, so much sorrow. As you mentioned, it was college night at the Borderline Bar and Grill last night. A lot of young people came together to have food, to line dance, and just have a good time. But that would not be the case, sadly, for so many of them. In fact, many of the victims were young. A lot of them were college kids. One was a bouncer, another a veteran sheriff's sergeant. In fact, his name is Ron Hellis. He was the first man through the door of the Borderline Bar and Grill after the shooting started. And our Rachel Kim is live at a vigil for the victims of the shooting tonight. Rachel?
Yeah, hi, Pat. We are outside the Cavalier Theater at the Civic Center here in Thousand Oaks. The vigil is going on indoors, behind the doors behind me. It is so full right now. Take a look at the crowd, the overflow crowd out here. Not enough seats to get inside, so obviously a lot of folks turning out for this vigil. A lot of folks in this community wanted to be here. One of those people is right over here to my right. This is Sarah. She graduated from Cal Lutheran. Sarah, thank you for joining us. I know it's very emotional for you right now, but why did you feel like it was important that you needed to be here?
Well, I am a recent graduate from Cal Lutheran, actually, and I know that spot is very popular with the Cal Lutheran community and Thousand Oaks in general. And so even though, I didn't know anybody, super personally that was involved in the incident, this place is my home now, and I stand with the Cal Lutheran community, and so I just felt it was important to come and support and show them that, we can stay strong through this.
Even though you can't get inside, there are not enough seats, but you're staying here in the cold just to be here with everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. I'd rather be here than not, even though I can't get in, it's still, I'm still here. So.
How did it impact you when you heard the news today?
Actually, I started hearing it last night, and at first it just seemed so surreal, and I don't think it hit me completely until later this morning is when I came to the realization, and actually it was really hard for me. I had a few very emotional moments, and it's been a tough day.
Obviously, right, Sarah? So, Scott, I'm going to ask you to just pan off to the crowd, at the folks who are here. Sarah, I want to continue talking to you. Looking out at all these people who are here tonight, how does it make you feel as someone who is part of the community and looking at everybody who's joining you here?
It makes me feel really good and really happy that I am part of this community that can come together after such a tragedy. It just shows that we're stronger when we're together, and we can overcome anything, even though it'll take some time.
And finally, what would your message be to all those affected, those who were injured and sadly killed?
My thoughts and everybody's thoughts around the world are with you, and there's nothing we can do about the events that have happened, but as long as we stay together and we stay strong, we can make it through, and we'll be okay in the end. So.
Thank you very much. Thousand Oaks strong, right?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So, Pat, as you can see out here, even Out here is one thing, but downstairs in another room, it is completely packed with people just wanting to be here, even though they can't be inside directly participating in this vigil. Just being here is making a difference, and just talking to people who are feeling the same way and supporting one another, it really means a lot. And I can tell you that even though I have no direct correlation to anyone affected, this is very impactful and very emotional for anybody who's here. So I can understand why so many people turned out tonight. Back to you.
Thanks for that, Rachel. And I can just imagine not only here, but all over the country, people are feeling just the pain and the emotion of what has happened right here in our town of Thousand Oaks. In fact, I remember hearing stories last night about some of the people who actually survived the Country Music Festival, the Route 91 shooting in Las Vegas that happened last year. So there is a lot of history, but there's also a lot that can happen when people come together as a community, one community. This story has many facets to it, of course. The victims, survivors, the heroes, and yes, the shooter, a former Marine. Our live team coverage continues now with CBS 2's Dave Lopez. Dave?
Pat, one of the things about this that hits so hard is the fact where it happened. This is a community not known for a high rate of crime. In fact, many people that we talked to said that they specifically moved to this area, this community, because of the lack of crime. In the entire county of Ventura, hard to believe, 5 homicides all of last year. So this is a safe haven, or it was in the minds of many people until last night. The awful sound of gunfire inside the Borderline Bar and Grill. And from the outside, you could hear that same awful sound.
Guys, run! Go! He's coming out this door!
And we heard shots, and everyone kind of looked around, and then we heard more shots. I heard like 6 shots. Everybody piled on top of each other.
And they picked us up, and they threw me and my girlfriend out the window. There's like nowhere. It's like, those are my people. And it's just not fair. It's not fair.
It was college night inside the Borderline Bar and Grill, and people panicked.
All I wanted to do was get as many people out of there as possible.
And that's what people did. Breaking windows, crawling to safety, hiding in the bathrooms. The 911 dispatch call.
The subject was at the front shooting at everybody. DT's still inside the bar. Officer down. Sound 3 down and unresponsive.
That officer down, Ron Hellis, a 29-year veteran of the Ventura Sheriff's Office, who was on patrol nearby, talking to his wife on the phone when he got the call, and he said, "Honey, I gotta go. I'll see you later tonight. I love you." Less than 10 minutes later, he ran into the bar, was shot, and killed.
Sergeant Hillis died at the... The sergeant passed away at the hospital.
Reset! Arms!
Earlier this morning, his body escorted to the coroner's office in Ventura. The suspect, identified by police as Ian David Long, shot and killed himself. As for a motive, they say they have none. People who live in this community are shocked. In fact, one person told me, "We nicknamed this place Mayberry RFD." Why? Because nothing ever bad happens here, she told me. It did last night. The sergeant that was killed was due to retire in about a year. He was very close friends with longtime sheriff here, Jeff Dean. That is the man that you saw choking up when he was talking about the fact that one of his men were killed. Sheriff Dean is due to retire tomorrow after 43 years on the job. Pat, back to you.
All right, thanks for that, Dave Lopez. Dave, thank you. And each of the 12 victims leaves behind family, friends, parents, brothers, sisters. In fact, some leave behind children. We continue our live team coverage now from Simi Valley, where we turn to Leslie Marine. She is live at a vigil there. Leslie.
Speaking of children, we are at the vigil for Sean Adler. Not only is his mother flying in from Las Vegas to remember him, but he left behind 2 children of his own. But I want to show you the growing crowd out here in Simi Valley that really shows a testament to what kind of man Sean was. This is the coffee shop that he owned here in Simi Valley, and you can see the flowing amount of people here, literally flowing out into the parking lot. There's dozens more inside that coffee shop, many flowers and candles left behind to remember this father, this son, this brother. We are told not only did he own this coffee shop, was a local business owner here in Simi Valley, but he also was a coach at a nearby high school. There will be a vigil held for Sean starting at 7 p.m. today, just in a couple moments here. But then there will be another one also held right here at the same coffee shop tomorrow at 8 p.m. once his mother and sister do fly in from Las Vegas. Of course, a year ago, we saw that horrific shooting in Las Vegas. Then tonight, this city mourning the loss of one of their own. Back to you.
All right, thank you for that, Leslie. Thank you, Leslie. And our Brittany Hopper is on the scene from Cal Lutheran, where a vigil for one of the victims began just a short time ago. We'll join her live. Brittany?
That's right, Pat. Justin Mink, he was just 23 years old. He had just graduated from this school, Cal Lutheran. We were told that he was very well known here on campus. I want to go to some video. This is what we shot earlier today. There were hundreds of people that attended the afternoon services here at Cal Lutheran. Classes were canceled for the day. It's obviously just been a very emotional day, as you can imagine. Now, a lot of the students I talked to, they had gone to this bar, Borderline Bar. They go most Wednesday nights during college night. Now, we talked to some of his friends, and they just all said that Justin had this most amazing smile, and when he walked into a room, everyone just was friends with him and just wanted to be around him. Let's take a listen to some of his friends.
Was incredibly talented in a way that most people don't have the ability to be. And not only that, but he was loving and caring and happy and fun.
He was, like I said, he put himself first in front of everybody else, and that was the way that he passed. He put himself in front of bullets to save other people's lives, and that's what he did here every day at Cal Lu, is he tried to help people.
Now, there's a vigil here tonight at 7:30. We were told that they were expecting hundreds of people to come out here to this chapel, but unfortunately, we're told that some of the streets over here are blocked because of the fires, so we'll see how many people. I can tell you right now, a couple dozens of people have been coming here and for a prayer vigil for Justin and, of course, the other victims tonight. For now, we are in Thousand Oaks. Back to you, Pat.
All right, thank you for that, Brittany. As we mentioned, law enforcement and psychologists are working the angle of trying to find out more about the shooter and how this could have happened, what was going on in his mind. We do know that he did a tour of duty in Afghanistan. He was a former Marine. But Joy Benedict picks up the story now, and she talked with a woman who said this gunman was in trouble long before he went to Afghanistan.
I turned on the news, I was watching it, and when they said the name, my jaw just dropped.
Ian David Long is a name this former high school coach hadn't heard in a long time, but it's one she never forgot.
He attacked me. He attacked his high school track coach. Who does that?
For this former Newbury Park High School track coach, this day has been full of emotions, from sadness to guilt, because she never filed charges against Long after she says he assaulted her his senior year. Dominique Kalel says it happened during practice when someone found a phone and she was trying to figure out who it belonged to.
Ian came up and started screaming at me that that was his phone. He just started grabbing me. He groped my butt, he groped my stomach, he went around me, I pushed him off me, and I said, I'm not giving you the cell phone, get off. And I said, you know what, for that, you're off the team.
But Kalel says she was encouraged by other coaches in the school to accept an apology and to not ruin his future in the Marine Corps.
I should have reported it.
And although she never would have predicted this, Kalel says she doesn't believe this is just a case of PTSD. She says Long had issues long before he was ever a Marine.
There are hundreds of thousands of people with PTSD. They don't go around shooting people. This kid was mentally disturbed in high school, and there were signs, and the administration knew it.
Kalel says she was encouraged by other coaches and the school district to not report Long. She, of course, wishes now that she would have done so, and she hopes this serves as a lesson for school districts going forward, that if they see a problem with a student, to do something about it then. From Newbury Park, Joy Benedict, CBS 2 News.
Well, police and the FBI are also at the gunman's home in Newbury Park trying to find the answers to the why and so many other questions. Our Randy Page is also there live. He's in front of the gunman's home. Let's join him live now. Randy.
Pat, we got here just about 6:30 this morning. And I want to show you what we saw. We saw a whole bunch of law enforcement coming through here, FBI, ATF, and also local police and deputies clearly going through, trying to find evidence, trying to find some information that can help them to understand how this could have happened. And one of the people who can probably help them the most is Ian Long's mother. Here she is as she was brought out of the house. We saw her put the family dog in another vehicle and then leave. She was inside the house all day long with investigators, and we believe she was helping them and talking to them and try to figure out exactly what happened. Here's what we can tell you about Ian Long. He's 28 years old, and he's lived with his mother off and on for much of his life. In fact, ever since they moved to this home in 2006. He is a combat Marine veteran, and the military tells us that he was actually a machine gunner. His last deployment in Afghanistan was in 2010 to 2011. We can also tell you that in April, there was a neighbor who became extremely concerned about loud noises and coming from inside the house. He picked up the phone and he called 911, and he explained to us why he made that call.
It seemed that he was like tearing down a house or something. I called the police on him that time just because I didn't know if he was hurting himself. And I certainly didn't want that. And they had detectives here, and they had mental health experts, and they dealt with it. I assumed he was getting some kind of mental help treatment. Since that time, there has not been any more of those types of problems here.
Investigators spoke to these neighbors, and they also, as I mentioned, spent a lot of time inside the home. The FBI special agent in charge of the LA office today said that they're very carefully trying to understand his life. First of all, they're looking at his digital footprint, his social media. So they're looking for any cell phones, computers, and so forth, and any other evidence that can help them to understand exactly what happened. And again, probably one of the most important assets for them in trying to understand Ian Long is his mother, Colleen. Pat, let's go back to you.
All right, thank you, Randy Page. And you know what? I will never forget the long night of waiting when parents and loved ones found out that there was a shooting at the Borderline Bar and Grill. They didn't know exactly what had happened. Some of them did know that their loved ones, their sons or daughters, actually went there that night, but they didn't have information about what happened to them. We're going to go to Laurie Perez now, who is going to share the story of a father and his heartbreak when he found out his son did not survive. Laurie.
That's right, Pat. You know, lots of the families who came here to the teen center today to get the devastating news, too many that their loved ones had been killed. Many of them did not, understandably, want to speak to us, but one man did. His name is Jason Kaufman. He is the dad of Cody Kaufman, and he'd been communicating with the media really in the immediate hours after news started to spread of the shooting. He'd been pushing his son's picture to the media and begging for information. Early this morning, he came out once again to the media to make a brutally sad announcement that he'd been notified his son was among those killed. 22-year-old Cody Kaufman. He was overcome with grief, the father, but bursting to tell us about his son, his firstborn. He told us about his love of baseball and fishing, his dream of joining the Army, and his commitment to being the best big brother to his two little brothers, both under 10 years old. And he was so anticipating meeting his little sister who was on the way, a little sister who will now never know her brother.
My firstborn son. Only him and I know how much I miss. Oh God, this is so hard. Oh, son, I love you so much.
And that was just searing grief pouring out of him here this morning. There were lots of experts and therapists, faith leaders here to comfort Kaufman and the other families. But the most powerful support might have come from the victims of other mass shootings. There were a few here today, including a couple who lost their daughter in the Aurora shooting, and also a young man who lives not far from here. He was shot in a mass shooting at the Granada Hills JCC in 1999. He says this news today reopened his wounds, but he said he would never forgive himself if he didn't come here today to offer support and the kind of intimate understanding that unfortunately only other victims can have. A really sad day here in Thousand Oaks, and it continues overnight. We are live in Thousand Oaks tonight. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Laurie. And boy, Laurie, that really says a lot. That shooting in Aurora happened in 2012. And just to think that we have support groups for victims of mass shootings, because we've had so many, too many here in the United States. And now we have one right in our backyard in Thousand Oaks. So many stories of emotion, so many stories of heartbreak, but also just stories of love to share from the families, those who want us to share their stories with you. And we will be doing just that tonight and for the days and weeks to come. For now, I'm going to send it back to you, Jeff, in the studio.
All right. My colleague Pat Harvey live at the scene. Pat, thank you so much. Now, the other breaking news that we have been following since this afternoon, it was a surprise, yet we shouldn't have been surprised in these conditions. A wildfire consuming parts of Newbury Park. A wildfire threatening homes and buildings. Stu Mundell has been over this fire all afternoon. Stu, how has it changed?
We're still looking at a lot of this fire out here in the Newbury Park area. We've actually moved the helicopter onto the other side of the hill. We're actually over the Santa Rosa Road area, Santa Rosa Valley, looking at this fire still burning. Actually made its way over a hillside and down onto the other side. So the top of the picture right now, you're seeing the Newbury Park area. This is the most active part of the fire right now. Now this is a portion of an 8,000-acre fire that's been burning since this afternoon. Several homes have been threatened over in the Caneo Grade area and the Camarillo Springs area. We understand that several structures have been burned this afternoon. Nobody's confirming any homes have been lost, though. That's really great news. The fire still continues to burn out here. 101 freeway, both directions still closed at the Caneo Grade, and of course the firefight being fought mostly by Ventura County Fire, but has been joined by many other agencies. Earlier on, CAL FIRE was out here dropping Phos-Chek with their fixed-wing aircraft. We understand that fixed-wing, meaning and all air assets have been released for the night, meaning all the helicopters that were dropping water and those airplanes that dropped the flame retardant all have left the area. Right now, though, 0% containment as we understand it. These flames continue to burn. On this side of the hill, though, we do see every now and then homes on these hills and fire trucks around them. Live in Sky 2, Stu Mundell, back to you in the studio.
Yes, Stu, there's going to be a lot of structure protection throughout the night. I know sometimes LA County will fly at night. It's kind of an agency by agency decision, so we have our fingers crossed. Chris Holmstrom is also working this fire. He is somewhere in Newbury Park. Chris, begin by telling us where you are and what you've got there. I see some lines down behind you.
Yeah, that's right. I'm actually in one of the neighborhoods that's been evacuated. And let me tell you, Ventura County cannot catch a break today. First the shooting, now the hill fire. I mean, this neighborhood is evacuated right now. There's no power. And you can see little pop-up flames like this one right here that comes and goes. But fire crews are out here. They're trying to battle this fire because if you actually look right across the street, there's homes just right over there. Those are the homes that have been evacuated. Now about 1,200 homes have been evacuated, so that's a lot of people in this area. As for damages, we heard there were some structures that were damaged on this side of the fire. I'm not sure what's up there. I heard some mobile homes may have been affected. I'm not sure if this is where they are. It looks like there's some sort of machinery, but fire crews are up in that area. Also, I want to talk about the dangers of power lines. I mean, look in the distance right there. You can see that power pole right there basically hanging off the pole. You have the line all the way on the floor. SoCal Edison is out here. They're checking it, making sure that people stay out of this area, that people stay safe. But the biggest concern is you have these really strong winds. This is a red flag warning. We've been telling you about this red flag warning for quite a while, and it's actually just getting started. The Santa Ana winds are just picking up. This warning goes in effect through tomorrow. So right now we know this fire is about 8,000 to 10,000 acres, but as we all know with wind, it could just spread that fast, and that's what you see right here. Crews, they are trying to get these hot spots so they don't spread, especially to the houses next door, because that's why so many people have been evacuated. Now, earlier in the day, we know air tankers were out here. They were dropping fire retardant out here. But in the meantime, people in this area are to be evacuated. I actually spoke with one couple who came back here, and they were told to enter at your own risk. They had to make sure that their pets were safe. All right, Jeff, reporting live from Ventura County. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Chris Holmstrom. Chris, and as you bring up SoCal Edison, I know they warned people they would be cutting the power. There is Adriana Weingold. She is at another flank of this fire, if you will. Adriana?
Yeah, well, this fire is still very much burning out of control here near Newbury Park. You can see the flames here on the hillside behind me. It started at around 2 in the afternoon at Hill Canyon and Santa Rosa Road. That is where we are right now. And it quickly grew to about 10,000 acres. Now, there are some mandatory evacuations to tell you about. Vallecito Trailer Park, Camarillo Springs, Cal State University Channel Islands, Dos Vientos, and Bell Canyon. Again, this is a rapidly spreading fire. There is a hard closure of the 101 in both directions between Borchard Road and Pleasant Valley Road. Now we want to tell you about some evacuation centers at Borchard Community Center, Camarillo Community Center, and Rancho Santa Susana Recreation Center. Again, it is incredibly dry and incredibly windy out here, and fire officials as well as fire officials just want to make sure that everybody knows if you are in one of those mandatory evacuation zones, if you are told to get out, they really need you to heed those warnings. This is a fast-moving fire with these heavy winds, and it could just change directions at any time. For now, we are live in Newbury Park. Adriana Weingold, back to you.
All right, Adriana, thank you very much for that report from the ground. Back up from the air, we can see at least the hottest flank of this fire that is burning in the Newbury Park area. CBS 2's Garth Kemp had told us earlier in our newscast that the wind was not only not going to die down, but Garth, you said actually increase.
Yeah, it's starting to pick up right now, about 15 miles an hour. We're starting to see it with gusts up to around 34 miles an hour. So that's up about 6 miles an hour in both spots. Humidity right at around 20%. That's over on the Pacific side of what's going on over there, but it's tonight that's going to be the problem. Remember, high wind warnings are going to continue through tomorrow. All mountain areas of Southern California, also the entire Inland Empire. Everybody else down to, we're picking up wind advisories to those areas. Santa Monica Mountain Range, high wind warning. So we're not done yet. The strongest of these winds will come this evening through tomorrow morning before they start to loosen up just a little bit. So we could see 50, 55 mile an hour gusts this evening. So even if they are able to fly at some point this night, it's going to be a really rocky ride up there. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but boy, the winds are going to certainly climb through the even periods tonight. Jeff will keep you updated.
All right, Garth Kemp, thank you very much. And as we close out our coverage here, not only of the terrible shooting at the Borderline Bar and Grill, but also this devastating wildfire, we hope to have new numbers for you on how much this fire has grown on KCAL 9 at 8 p.m. But for now, this is Jeff Michael, along with Pat Harvey, saying we hope you have a safe evening, everyone. Have a very good night.
Not again.
He's coming out this door.
What we've learned about the gunman.
He lived with his mom and drove her car to the shooting.
And the desperate search for loved ones.
What's going on?
A father's anguish. The moment he learns the fate of his missing son. Plus, inside the club on college